At 6:30, we'll go ahead and call our Board Academy meeting to order here on Monday, November 3rd of 2025. It's exactly 6:30. I would have Ms. Clark take roll call for us tonight. I'd like to just start with kind of a little moment of silence for our student tragedy that we had this last weekend, or end of last week, and just kind of for all the other students that maybe are struggling with things like that and things. So just gonna take a moment. Okay, thank you. So we'll move right in. First, I would look for a motion to approve the employee resignation that was embedded.
So moved.
Motion by Teresa, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Sue, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then a motion to approve the employee hires or contracts that were embedded.
Administration recommends.
So moved.
A second for that? Second by Spencer, all right, motion by Teresa, second by Spencer, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next will be consideration of possible approval of an out-of-state and overnight trip, December 2nd through the 5th, 2025, for our JAG, which is the Jobs for American Graduates, Tomah High School students, to attend the JAG National Student Leadership Academy.
Administration highly recommends approval. Visited with Jessica Gumnus, she's the JAG coordinator and a state career association coordinator, and a student, Caden Nelson. She checked in with him. Caden Nelson, congratulations to him, high school, going to this leadership opportunity. Highly recommend approval for the out-of-state overnight travel. Wishing him the best in that leadership opportunity.
Great. Got a motion to approve that overnight trip?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the overnight JAG trip as written.
Okay, motion by Teresa, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Heidi. Sorry, Matt.
Yeah.
You good? Okay,
Yeah.
yep. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we're gonna take a look at the Tomah Area School District Administrative Leadership Team will present some current behavioral data and behavioral interventions and supports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board of Education. I want to thank and welcome our administrative team here today. Our second meeting where we're walking through behavioral data this evening, coming through our panorama piece, which also is linked into our Infinite Campus, and then to talk more about the interventions that we have going on throughout the school district that we've been doing for quite some time. PBIS is certainly nothing new in the school district, but absolutely has evolved over time, and based on the information we've received in the past 3 years from surveys, etc., we're building a stronger, more robust, and more effective pathway for that, a culture of modeling behaviors we like to see, and advancing those positive supports moving forward. So I want to thank the entire administrative team putting this together. They're actioning this along with our amazing faculty every day. So I want to turn that over to our team presenting this evening.
It's a team effort. Trying to. It's okay. It's okay. You got this. All right. Good evening. Before we get into student discipline data, I wanted to take some time to educate all on how behavior fits into the overall picture and the functioning of supports for each student. So this is part of the systems we have been building across the district at each school. The board has dedicated substantial support and learning time on the academic portion of this continuous improvement through the PLC framework for our staff. This includes the formation of guiding coalitions at our buildings and at the district level, all the trainings that those teams have gone to. It also includes dedicated PLC time for collaboration and work around anchor statements that you have allowed us to do and continue to learn more about. We are also building the social and emotional portion of this continuous improvement through creation of an SEL coordinator position and dedicated classroom time for this learning. This chart up here shows the framework for continuous improvement for behavior, academics, and social emotional learning, multi-level systems of support. They all go together. They can exist independently, but the strongest school districts we'll have all three in place. Tier 1 is the learning of all students, like I had discussed last time, so all students get Tier 1 learning. Tier 2 learning are supports students will receive if they're not quite understanding what's being taught yet. Tier 3 are the most intensive level of support students can receive, but they also will receive Tier 1 and Tier 2 on top of that Tier 3 supports. What the adults do in all three tiers is vital to the success of our students. For example, if the adults don't teach their expectations with fidelity to all students, not all students will know what to do, and this is in the academics and behaviors. On the academic side, this is question 1 in the PLC process. What do we want students to know? This also is the same for the behavior side. Adults need to teach their expectations to all students on a continual basis. I like the story about a student in a class who doesn't know how to multiply yet. They should already know the skill. It's a skill that was taught in a previous grade level. So we recognize that the student does not yet have that skill, and we provide them with Tier 3 supports to help them instead of giving them a consequence for not knowing it. The same goes with behavior. If a student is showing us a skill, we can't assume that they were already taught the skill. We need to provide them with more supports. We teach and don't just consequence that.
Okay, this chart, this graphic, is one that is in all of the playbooks from elementary to middle to high school. And it just breaks out the RTI for behavior, which is response to intervention, and that's where our PBIS portion comes in. So next is RTI for academics, and this was my world before, where if they didn't understand reading, we intervened and we gave them the skills that they needed so that they could get better at reading. And we want to look at our PBIS as the same thing, but it's for behavior. It's that response to intervention. If they're not getting it, we have to keep teaching them, giving them those additional skills that they need until they get it. Justina talked about the SEL component, and then our gifted and talented program fits under the PLC question number 4, what will we do if they already know it? So that's where the GT, the gifted and talented, comes in. So the 4 questions, you should recognize this book. This is the book that kind of started it all. It's Learning by Doing. This is the most recent edition. But everything that we are doing revolves around the 4 PLC questions. So number 1 is, what do we want students to be able to do or to be able to perform? How will we know if they get it or if they can do it? How will we respond when they don't learn? And then that number 4, how will we respond when they do learn or already know it? So these 4 questions are used at every collaboration meeting that the teachers are having, and the discussion is around academics and also the behaviors.
So that first question that we look at is, what do we want kids to know and be able to do? So we start with that end piece, and we have these all in, you've seen our playbooks before, and a very important part of that is the matrices. So if you go to the next one, Michelle. The matrices define what the expected behaviors are in common areas. So I can speak for elementary. We are safe, we are responsible, and we are respectful. So when we're in the hallway, what does that look like? What does that look like to be safe, to be responsible and respectful? So not only did we define that, and are we uniform across all the elementary buildings, but we have those displayed and teachers practice those. So in classrooms as well, all of our teachers have come up with their own expectations. So if they're doing small group work, what does that look like to be safe, responsible, and respectful? To put away materials, what does that look like to be safe, responsible, and respectful? And these are displayed in the classroom and in the common areas too. And I always say to folks that they're not so much for the kids, because I can speak at elementary, not oftentimes do the kids go and look at these and say, how many pumps of soap am I going to get, and I'm gonna read that first, but it allows us as adults to remind them when they do go into that environment of what the expected behavior is. And then one of the things that we stressed in years past is sometimes that behavior happens, but what can we do to elicit and set up kids for success? So through the Hannigans and through our work with the with our handbooks, we came up with a prevention cycle. What are those things that adults can do? So these are designed to reduce the likelihood of problem behaviors before they occur by creating supportive environments, teaching expectations, and reinforcing what the positive behavior patterns are. The goal is to increase predictability, structure, positive engagement for students, minimizing the needs for reactive or punitive. So these are things that if you walk into a school, you should see a teacher welcoming students daily. It's part of that building a sense of community. So our SEL coordinator and Michelle Powell, who we've met before through CISA, have created a practice profile. So we can go in and teach these. So I had one of our sports staff members work with the rest of the sports staff on what does active supervision look like. And that was on the practice profile. So it's doing those adult things that then contribute to a positive culture and climate.
And Brian couldn't have said it any better. We are taking, this is a perfect transition, by the way. We then took our lesson plans and we provided at each of the levels step-by-step directions for our staff. And they were able to then present different lessons to our students that pertain to these different areas. So at middle and high school, we had some videos that went along with it so we could talk through. We had scripts that went with everything and really worked through what are the expected behaviors and why do we do these different things based on the Howell matrix. And you can see up there some different examples, but we work with all of it to ensure that we have universal learning at that tier 1 level. So all of our students are getting the same learning, and at that point then we can start holding them accountable for having learned the expected behavior. When we don't get the expected behavior, we have done some reteaching. We went through data and looked and said, hey, we're missing a key component, and we retaught it so a different way, and went back in and made sure our students were really truly understanding and we were ingraining that learning in there, because one and done doesn't do it. We need to repeat ourselves multiple times in education, and that's a lot of what we do with this in order to see those expected behaviors from our students.
This is neat. All right, so we're moving on to question 2, which is how will we know if they get it or if they can do it? So just a reminder, you have seen this before. We look at this as a lot of times it's focused in on the academic side, but it works the exact same way for the behavioral side. And so in a healthy system, about 80% of our students will be at proficient at tier 1, which means that universal learning that we provided them, they respond well to, they learn, and they show the expected, in this case, behaviors that we need in the classroom. Tier 2 is more targeted. So we always know that there's going to be a smaller percentage, usually around 5 to 10% of students, who didn't get the learning the first time and need another opportunity to learn. And sometimes multiple opportunities to learn, depending on the matrix, right? The parts of the matrix. So you might have a student who's struggling in multiple areas of that matrix. So we're going to provide different tier 2 interventions for that through behavior academies. Is the way that we're doing it now. So you might have students in a civility behavior academy because they just can't get along with other people, or you might have kids in a motivation academy because they just want to put their head down and not do anything in class, right? Both are behaviors and they're both impeding on their learning, so we need to address those. So we'll do that at the tier 2 level, and then an even smaller group of students, that behavior academy level isn't enough. So we're going to provide even more. So in a behavior academy, you might have up to maybe 8 students. We're really targeting down skill by skill in a very small group of 3 or less. Okay, so just a reminder of that. And so if we transition in question 2 for behavior, we use our behavior data as how do we know if they've got it, correct? So just to draw your attention, again, a healthy system is 80 to 90%. 80 is usually the lowest. If you look at as far over on the left-hand side, that's universal for Tomah Area School District. 85% of our student population is showing proficiency in their behaviors at the tier 1 level. Currently, about 10% of our student body are at the tier 2 level, and about 5% are at the tier 3. So if you look at that, that is a beautiful example of a healthy system. And then, so what we did, just like we did last time, we took our biggest schools and gave very specific data of those schools. So comparing across, you can see again, above the 80-85% tile mark in tier 1, all of that showing a pretty healthy system at this point. So yeah.
So once we've established that we've done a good job getting through that first universal part of our system, so what we saw right now shows that we're doing that part, but then the next part of the question is, what will we do when it's not solid for everybody? Because our goal is obviously with 100% of our students to be completely proficient at everything that we teach, including the expected behaviors. So on some level, we need to acknowledge that right now, yes, there are behavior issues in our schools. I would argue that that's probably more universal than just our school. It's something that we're going to see. I do think it's really important that as we move into the problem-solving part of what we're talking about today, what we're going to do about it, I think it's really helpful to keep that perspective, that 2,544 of our students are successful in tier 1. That's a small town with a people doing exactly what they're supposed to do, responding well to that first instruction. There's 73 students who are in tier 2, so they're looking at behavior academies and additional small groups, doing a little double dose of some of that universal work, and maybe a more targeted to that way. And there are 128 students altogether between all of the buildings who are looking at a tier 3 level intervention. So it's safe, they're still getting that tier 1, they're still getting all that good first teaching, they're still getting small groups or targeted instruction or academies, and then we're layering on additional support to help bring them to a place where they're competency in the areas that we're trying to help them grow in. So some of the things that we do are to take that universal and bring it down to that more individualized level. This is what we did for everyone all together, and so we're gonna work on it in smaller groups, see if we can shift the focus or get it just more targeted to that student and that behavior and those things that are affecting that one individual child or that small group. And that's where we see SEL teaching coming up here again. Second step, Kelso's Wheel of Be Good People and Social Stories. My colleagues are gonna go through some of the other ways that we respond to students when we don't learn.
Yeah, this is good. Third, Behavior Academies, one of the things that is new to us this year is in the past, when kids would have repeated minors or repeated major behavior issues, we would reteach them. And it's the equivalent of telling them the same thing, right? Louder, slower, meaner, those sort of things, but we start to realize that this is a skill deficit. So the example that I came evident on the way here, if you watched any of the World Series, Max Scherzer, who was pitching, was 41 years old. Max Scherzer used to pitch for the Loggers. He used to throw at about 97, 98 miles an hour. He's 41 years old. He can throw at about 94, 92, which is a lot of speed differential when you're talking about Major League Baseball. So what he had to do is learn to pitch location, and he needed to add some new pitches. So he couldn't do the same thing because he would no longer be in the major leagues. So he had to do something else. So that's what we do with kids that are in academies, is we teach them replacement skills. So for instance, I'm doing 2 behavior academies. They're called Hands Off Academy. So it's for kids that have had infractions on physical behavior. So it's starting to recognize, before I go hands-on with somebody, there's an emotional response that I have. I start breathing heavy. One child said, I might swear, and that's an indication that I have to hit the pause button. So we're teaching those skills for kids. The different academies that we have at our availability are Hands-Off Academy, Civility Academy, Organizational Skills Academy, Social Skills Academy, Upstander Academy, Motivation Academy, and Emotional Regulation Academy. And those are canned ones that we had gone to training this summer, but we have a template that essentially we can teach replacement behaviors for any common theme that we see. So various schools are doing academies. Myself, I'm doing a 4th grade group and a 5th grade group, and out of those I have one student who's had a physical infraction this year over the course of 8 weeks. And in fact, testimonial, I had one student in PE who was frustrated, and he starts yelling to, or there's 2 kids that were in ESS and PE, and one saw the other frustrated, and he started yelling to the other one to hit the pause button. So it was pretty cool that he was doing it. Now, it's not everything, right? It's just another way, level of support for kids. So that's Behavior Academy.
All right. At the middle school, we are doing this, and we have infused it in with our behavior contracts. When students get a contract, we have built in at step 3, they are automatically put into an academy. There's 7 steps to this. Academies that we currently have running are our Motivation Academy, which we just call our Attendance Academy. Currently, we have about 8 students, I think, in that academy. We have the Civility Academy. That one runs for 4 weeks. They meet twice a week. We just had one group of students finish it, and we just started a new group of Civility. We created one, so we have a template, and we call it Healthy Choices. It's for students who bring a substance to school, so that we can put them in an academy. Any student that gets an in-school or out-of-school suspension automatically gets placed at step 3, so they would get placed into an academy. Currently, we have 20 students on a contract, or we will at the end of this week. I have a couple meetings coming up. But the big news is we have 2 students who are off of a contract already this year. Today was a big day. We had one student, Amy, picked up a big bouquet of flowers, and she is a kiddo that had never gotten something like that at school before, so there was lots of tears at the end of the day. As far as a tier 3, that really comes from us in the office. If we don't have any students on a step 5, 6, or 7, hopefully we don't go that high. But when we get there, if we would get there, it's definitely going to be us in the office with possibly some help from our school counselors, really infusing that one-on-one support with those students.
Excuse me. So, Department of Justice, State Department of Justice Office of School Safety developed the behavioral threat assessment management process a few years ago in response to any particular imminent threat, danger to the security and safety of the buildings. There was a process to go through with the threat assessments to figure out, background information on the students, the parents, student staff input, just to see, peel back the layers to figure out what maybe caused that particular threat to occur. Over last year and then released this past summer was the updated version of the threat assessment process. Made it a lot more student friendly, especially at the lower levels, the elementary levels. But more importantly, it gave us a very specific plan to follow and pathway to follow as we were going through do the threat. If there was an imminent threat, obviously we'd go right to the threat assessment and figure out the bits and pieces of everything, put together an intervention plan. If there wasn't an imminent threat, it allowed us to triage this process, triage the situation, and then go right to this intervention and support process. Develop that plan to take a look at what processes, what supports do we have at our disposal that we'll be kind of talking about in a little bit. In-house counseling, going to a treatment facility, doing some wraparound services maybe through the county if it was potentially severe enough that there was referral to circuit court, human services, that we could get some assistance for the family, for the student themselves. And then now what we have the academy is start integrating where does this fit within the academy. And so it gets away from recognizing, yep, there is a problem, you're gonna get this consequence, but more importantly on the back end, we're gonna provide that wraparound services. What's going on in that particular student's lives that kind of led to this? How do we support that kid? How do you support that family? And then start having those touch points within our building with different staff members that can provide those supports.
So I'm going to take a little bit of a dive in special education. Okay, we're going to kind of deviate from all and talk about students of special needs. So students with special needs are a protected class in the Civil Rights Act. You all know this. You've heard these presentations from me many times. Some of the students are identified for having emotional or behavioral or other types of special education or educational impairments. Okay, that's protected class 2. Okay, and again, we do have detentions, in-school suspensions. We have school suspensions. They can, at a younger level, sometimes they miss other events. Things like that. We have meetings with families. We've talked a lot about a lot of outside influences. An example would be over 10 years ago. For those of you around the board, we worked with the Department of Health to bring in small businesses that deal with mental health. They don't work for the district, they work for these families. And we just ran out of space. We can't house them anymore. But they serve about 300 students every single year. And again, that's just another layer. So when we talk about special education, there are certain stopgaps that occur when we have a student with a severe behavior, okay? So if we have little Paulie Jr. here, and I'm a general ed student, pretend I'm Paulie Jr., and I don't have an IEP, and I do something that would warrant a suspension or, gosh forbid, an expulsion, normal policies follow through, and I'm either in front of you with my family, or I'm working with an INLU or something like that with administration. Students with with an IEP, they have certain protections. The reason this protection was put in place back in the 70s, and again, for some of you, because yes, that was just recently, and I'll explain what it was like beforehand, is that they were kicked out of school in droves, like it was in bucket loads, okay? And actually, a lot of the civil rights stuff, occurred around that time because we found that under the Constitution, there's something called the 14th Amendment. It's something about you can't discriminate. Okay, that's part of it. And that's out of a Supreme Court justice ruling on Brown versus Board of Education. Like, I can't say this student can go to this school, but you can't because of your protected class. Okay? And protected classes, a lot of people realize, are like gender, race, things like that. But what they don't realize is medical or special impairments also fall that way. So again, these stopgaps are things that, like, let's say a student can be suspended. Yeah, all students can be suspended, including those with IEPs. Students with IEPs can't be suspended more than 10 school days out of school in a school year. After that, generally, they cannot be. And you have to have something called a manifestation determination, or an MDR. Okay, we'll call it that. Is that an IEP team gets together, that includes parents, and they decide if Paulie Jr. here, his impairment caused him or had such a direct relationship to that behavior that it made him do it, okay? So like, if I have a learning disability in reading comprehension and I decide to deal drugs in school, I'm gonna guess the IEP team's gonna say it's not a manifestation. But if you busted me with marijuana for the 4th or 5th time in that school year, and I have a medical condition of CAD, cannabis addiction disorder, well, that's going to be a very different IEP team meeting. And by the way, that's not a special impairment, that's a medical condition. But again, these things kind of get layered in there. So again, can all students be suspended out of school? You betcha, okay? Students with an IEP, 10 days or less. That's one of the things that the principals behind me, I keep reminding them for the 10-day rule, okay? It's something that does happen. If it's a manifestation of the child's disability and they did something that would be expellable, the IEP team is going to say, no, board, you're not going to even see them. okay? The IEP team has the right to stop that process before it gets to your desk or Dr. Hansen's desk. If it's not a manifestation of the disability, then it proceeds. However, students with IEPs, their needs are still gonna be met, okay? We've had this conversation before, so like, let's say little Polly Jr. here has a learning disability and reading comprehension, and I've been dealing drugs in the high school, okay? And I get expelled out of school by the board. Polly's education is still gonna occur, except it's gonna occur in a different setting, okay? It's kind of a setting pretty much up for that guy, the director, and his IEP team to decide, okay? And that's a hard thing, because we still have to serve that child, but we get to serve that child in a place and in a method we, the district, and the IEP team decide. Okay, so far so good? All right. Now, one of the things that's really hard is, and I'll get back to some of our students that have impairments, some of their impairments can be challenging. You know, I like the colored graph that showed just a very small number of students that are in the red there. Some of those students have IEPs, and a few of those students are a challenge. I mean, it's some days are tough, but we're talking about a very few number of students when you look at the whole of the district. And so we do many different things. We meet more frequently. We might bring in some new strategies. We might bring in maybe some outside therapists or something like that to help maybe collaborate on how we can work with the students. We might try a new method. You know, we might, instead of trying ABA, we might try the ziggurat model or some other form of strategies that work with mental health and education. We continue to pour in the professional development with our staff to continue to try. Based on other information, sometimes our students have extra support to keep them on task and to keep their hands on themselves. They're monitored, so they're not alone or in unstructured environments as much as the next. In the end, IEP teams meet frequently to address behavior because it is the one area that, can be more of a challenge. Eventually, like when students with reading, we do make pretty good progress. But we also make pretty good progress with behavior. But behavior, like mental health, is not I'm gonna fix it, it's gonna be fixed in a week, not even a year. It might be 5 years, it might be 10. Okay, these things take time, all right? We're dealing with human brains, still developing human brains. I think we're gonna talk now about outside supports. You ready?
Sure. You did all the work. So after we try everything, then we also reach out to other agencies to support our students, such as placing our students to Cooley Connections or Northwest Journey, area like this for a temporary time to support the students. We also bring in counseling from outside to support our students on a weekly or bi-weekly, depends on the need, to support some of our students. And Dr. S said it very nicely, we have less 1% or less than 1% of our student population will need that kind of support. So, just so.
All right, and then question 4, how will we respond when they do or already know it? And so we have wonderful incentives set up across the district. At the elementary level, we have classrooms that create their own PAW goals, and when they reach those goals, the class votes on what they're going to do to celebrate that. We do building PAW goals. We just met one at Miller, and we celebrated with we would play a song over this loud system, and we'd do dance parties throughout the day. There might be a pie in the face if we reach our goal for November. We do things like weekly PAW drawings and PAW stores. So there's lots of good things being done to recognize those students who are following the expectations and doing what they need to do. Also, we have different character traits that we'll recognize each month with students at the elementary level. At the middle school level, they have How Were These Habits? They do name drawing, and this year they started bringing in community members to do different activities with them. Like recently did one
Outside kickball with the fire department, and it was a big hit. That was a big hit.
And the high school also, they have been working on attendance and attendance matters with different monthly challenges. So that is how we respond when the students do get it and when they know what they're doing. that completes our presentation for tonight. So do you have any questions or discussion?
I'm sure we're gonna have some, here. I just wanted to just iterate, I don't take it lightly that you're all here tonight. It's fantastic that you're all here. I know Tim is sick, but every single one of you is here tonight. I know you're away from your families and everything else, and I just appreciate that you are continuing to put so much time into this, and that you're here tonight to present it to us as a full team. So just thank you for that. So, otherwise, we got other questions, I'm sure, or discussion.
I do have two questions. I would like to see more data of different behaviors. I don't care if you can put them all together, between middle school, high school, and elementary, if it's going to show, somebody's behavior, but I'd like to see the data on, physical behavior and verbal abuse, to teachers, that kind of data broken out and seeing what the percentages are and seeing if that goes down. And then if there's any way to get this kind of presentation, because I can't see that at all from my seat. I'd have to be right up on that screen. Is there any way to have it embedded, give it to Dr. Hansen first, and then so that he can embed it into our screens? I would appreciate that immensely, so that I can see more of what you're talking about. Thank you. And thank you very much for your hard work.
Just a quick question, I guess. Do you have any goals set for, I mean, you've got some rough data right now and it's early, it hasn't been, too many weeks yet, but do you have any goals set forward for what you want to try to meet or achieve in the end of the year, midpoint?
I guess at the middle school, when we talk about behaviors, a lot of our goals are ensuring that we have a solid tier 1 foundation right now, no differently than when we started the PLC journey that we're on. So, and we've been doing a lot of that. So we use Be Good People every week and making sure that they're learning. Our PBIS team meets all of it like once a month, and it looks at data specifically of where do we need to target. There's specific lessons and activities that we can do through Be Good People on those areas. I think the goal for us, again, the goal is ultimately to be a healthy system, right? The goal is that the pyramids or the bar graphs you saw at the end of October are the same at the end of the year. And so I think creating a healthy behavioral system as well as a healthy academic system is the goal. Is that fair?
Certainly, Jenna. And I think it's fair to say too that when we talk about that little red chunk, I know is what's got all of us thinking really hard, right? Those students that maybe have IEPs, maybe don't. Some of the concerns that you just named, Teresa, are the kinds of things that I know we're kind of keeping an eye on, but I think it's fair to say that when we're talking about specific students, they all have their own goals. And we're working as teams. Some of them have official IEP teams, some of them have informal building teams or somewhat formalized building teams where we're creating really specific goals based really specifically on that student's data and exactly what they need. We're setting targets for growth and regular check-ins. So at that level, some of those goals are really, really specific to a certain student. But I would agree that from a tier 1, even a tier 2 standpoint, that's why we have our PBIS committees set up to review that data regularly to make sure that our system is at least strong enough that we're not creating some of the problems that some of our kids are experiencing.
I think going along with that, you kind of led right into it, is a big goal is that academy work that we're doing and continuing that work. And within that, like Melissa said, it's very specific for each student, watching their data, because that's part of your meeting every week. What data do you have? What write-ups went in? And celebrating when they don't have any of those. I had a little kindergartner today, and I was like, look at this, you made it a week and you didn't put your hands on anybody. And he's like, yeah! So just celebrating, and like Brian had said, giving them the replacement skills. That's huge this year, making sure those academies are set up and that tier 2 is solid, and just watching that individual student grow.
One of the things that, this is a PBIS framework, so it's we get a lot of support from CISA as well. So one of the things that we all just took was a self-assessment survey. So all of our staff members took a survey on the important components of how are things in the general community, the classroom, and then tier 2 and tier 3, and then also rank it in high priority, medium priority, or low priority. So looking at those from year to year that our staff take on what they perceive as we have in place, partially in place, or not in place. So we use that as our action plan too, to how do we create this system rather than just responding to each individual thing that comes up. Because there's several things that you think you're never gonna see, and then guess what? They come up in the day. But how does our system respond to that? Can we respond to it?
Would the board wanna see the building, what he's talking about? I mean, that's the global piece for each building, right?
The SAS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something the board wants to see?
I think anything would get.
That would be helpful.
I think
It
it's.
shows growth on the
As much-
system.
As much information showing where you started from and where you are and where you want to be is extremely important to us. And seeing that your good behaviors are going up and the bad ones are starting to do this, and de-escalating the whole district as a team.
Okay, would you be able to bring that slide back up on the current data? Because I think we missed something here. You know, I have the 24-25, and you can see those populations, you know, we're 83, 85, 83, 94, 97, 87, and you see that the green, that's where we want to be, and those numbers have demonstrated, I mean, we're 78, I don't want to pick on a building, but went up to 90.
That was gonna be
I
a
can't read.
clarification question I was gonna ask
Yeah.
is this building numbers correlating to the information that you gave us on October 6th? Like, do the building numbers correlate?
I can just answer that, because Justin and I are working that together. We only did 6 buildings, because at the end of the year, when all the data was in place, the panorama system only spit out data for 6 because the numbers were big enough. So in the fall, we were able to see 8 buildings with data. And I don't know enough about the system of panorama, if that will continue, or if the cell size gets smaller and smaller, then they won't start reporting that because then kids are identifiable.
So it's a question on building 1 was in October, is
So
also building 1 today.
yeah, so building
Right.
5 that he was talking about is 78, 12, 10, and then he's looking at building 5 on here saying, oh, well, now they're at 89, 4, and 7,
Just
and that's
building
why
one,
I'm
building
asking
one all
if
the
it
time.
That could
actually
be something we could show next month,
Okay.
the 2 buildings together.
Right.
So a new school year data sets.
Okay. I also have another question, absolutely from October 6th, from my notes on that. We had 9 students on contract at the middle school at that point, and we're up to 20?
Yes.
Okay, and you've also had 3 students drop off of contract?
2 students dropped off,
students.
so I have 20 on contract right now.
Okay, so we've leaped to 11 more students onto a contract.
We have.
Okay, that's what I wanted clarification on.
That's, and I'm not, like, we were anticipating that.
Oh,
Just, you know.
I'm not, yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that my notes are correct from
Yeah.
last time, just
We're
to see
gonna
if there
touch
was a
it.
jump on
Yeah.
that. And then I was gonna ask you, just personally, how are your parent meetings going? Are they,
They're still, I'm gonna knock on wood, but they're still actually going very well. I haven't,
do you see like a difference, like after mom and, or parent guardian, you know, caretaker knows kind of like what's happening? Do you see a difference in the student when they come back, like kind of after the meeting, or?
I think some of the best meetings are when mom and dad are there, or when 2 parents or 2 guardians are there, just because they know that we're all on the same page now. Sometimes we've even had meetings that an outcome is, instead of calling mom, we need to start calling dad. Because maybe mom and dad are like, you're too easy, and we're like,
One's
we're
good
gonna.
cop, one's bad cop.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So those are always good. Kids aren't perfect after some of these. Typically, after this meeting, I have a honeymoon, and then
we maybe move up from a step 1 to a step 2, and then they're like, oh gosh, they really mean this. And then we see some better behavior. So far still positive on my parent meetings. Hopefully that continues.
How are the teachers? Do they feel a little more supported?
I think so. I do my very best to let them know when a student has a contract. I usually send out an email to say like, hey, we have a contract coming up for this student. We don't necessarily let them know when a student is at a step, because as a teacher, we shouldn't be treating kids differently just because they're at a step 2, step 3, step 4. Like, they know that they're a contract kid. Sometimes I'll have a teacher ask me individually just kind of where they're at. And I think I had a science teacher ask me like, hey, the student has a contract, where are they at? And when I said that they were one of my students at a step 4, the teacher kind of just felt like, okay, like this is working. I haven't had any positives, but I haven't had any negatives coming back from teachers with that.
Well, I guess I was referring to, you had the board academies that you're drafting according to some of the behaviors. So that in itself should give teachers, say, hey, we're getting involved, because I think that was one of the concerns, the disconnect there. You know, the teachers were overwhelmed with things, making calls and various things instead of the teaching, and then not really feeling as though they had the support from the administration. So I think that those things, it doesn't have to necessarily be a contract, but if I understand the process, the behavior, academies are to address would be the hands-on disability, emotional, in an earlier state of intervention versus by the time you get to that contract, there's been a lot of damage already done.
And that's typically what I say at a contract meeting, whether we start at a step 1 or we're starting at a step 3. It's built in, and I tell families, like, this is to ensure that your student knows our expectations, and then what they choose to do if we're not following those expectations. Now, I have a few who struggle for various reasons. Maybe they have an IEP or something going on, and those might become our tier 3 kids, or will become our tier 3 kids, who will get a lot more individual attention from us in the office.
Do we have any data on how many students with IEPs are out of that 128?
I don't remember that.
Not for the presentation this evening, but the data is definitely there.
Could we get the data for that?
We'll double check something. I don't think we're meeting the threshold. That would be any conflict of things. So yeah, we'll take a peek at that. Thank you. I think tonight I would just like to reframe this too, in hearing this fantastic system that you have going. So thank you, board, for approving all of the activities that are within it. While we do take the surveys every year in May, you're hearing too, our teachers are getting these perception surveys all the way around. So I would like to propose that our next meeting be with you all in February, because we're in a compacted November-December timeframe. We get right back to school in January 2. And I just, if I hear from the team, you know, if there's something they'd like to bring sooner, but I would like that gift of time to keep moving forward on our academies, keep moving forward on all the different assessments that we have in terms of how healthy our systems are and how our employees and everyone is their perceptions of how we're growing as a team together in this very important piece. So if I hear anything differently, we'll bring something to it sooner, but I would like that opportunity in February Board Academy to give you that mid-year check-in.
I would like to see that too, because we noted at the beginning of school year, we saw those deficiencies. So we want to see retention. They're out, they come back to school, did it stick? You know, because that's where you'll see whether it's so thank you. I think fantastic job of presentation and the enthusiasm that I can see in that, and I'm happy.
May I ask a clarifying question? Sorry to keep you standing, I'm sitting. Can I just ask the why behind the breakout so that we get you what you want?
I was just curious because of his example of there's only 10 days out of school suspension for those students, so that's why I was
So nothing more than just the pure data.
Just pure data, yeah, just the number, how many students have IEPs out of the 128, and then by February, whatever that number is.
That number is.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, good stuff, all right. Next, we'll take a look at consideration and possible approval to revise the minimum bid amount for the Tomah Area School District land sale we have going on.
So I see a couple, faces of confusion. So we did, not get any bids at our minimum bid of 9,000 an acre. What we did receive was not at the $9,000 an acre. And in talking with, the attorney that made sure we had all of our paperwork correct, it would not really be fair to the community to accept any bids lower than 9,000 an acre, because not everybody would have submitted something if they weren't at the threshold. But he also did say the board can do what they want. So,
Which parcel of land, or was it both parcels of land that the bids were on?
we cannot get any bids for math, and I think that's probably, or for Jackson County.
Jackson County.
And out of the two parcels, that one is, I think, the nicest if you were looking to invest in
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So part of that may be advertising too, and not getting it in the right hands of the right people that, know about it.
What harm does it take, is it to just take it off, the market for a while and just sit on it again? What harm does that do to our district financially?
None of the funds was built into any budget or anything. I think it might be worth pursuing the bid that did come in on the other, property on Highway 16. That came in at 5,000 an acre. I'm not saying take 5,000 an acre, I'm saying there might be some negotiation between that party and the district if after we advertise it again at another minimum bid, so that everybody has a fair chance of saying, hey, I would like to do this.
I guess I was just thinking too, I saw this in the paper, this lease realty, and I guess my mind's eye, okay, if we weren't to get the 9,000 per acre, and let's just say like the 5, but if we contracted and we got 7, we could, in essence, do you think there'd be any favorability in at least contact these people? Because all they're showing are all these places that, acres that they've sold from, around Buffalo, Columbia, Crawford, Dane, Grant, Richland, Monroe, La Crosse, and it's all just acreage.
I think that's one of the places I emailed and just said,
Oh.
hey, in case you have clients looking for land,
Okay,
in the
okay. So
sidebar, you're not going to get a commission, but you will from your buyer.
well, that's,
But I just,
You never got a response?
No, and I only did it, the
Okay.
two that I knew about, and there certainly are probably more out there.
okay.
I'll be honest, I have a problem with Iowa now, and I get an email, I get a text, I bet you almost twice a week from somebody that says, hey, we noticed you have vacant land.
You mean a company?
Just a company like that,
Yeah.
that just says, we would love to try to sell it, or we would love to buy it, or whatever. I mean, so there's a lot of lots out there trying to sell. And I'm not, and that's, I guess the question in general is, do we want to contract with anybody, to help out,
Or would it spread? I guess that was the only thing. They have a network.
Wider
that-
range.
Yeah, they may pull someone in and still not hurt us financially. I don't know. It's just what I
I
have to see.
think we would have to consult legal counsel just to make sure, because I don't think that I can call Susie, my best friend, that's this person, to be that person. I think we
No.
probably have to.
No,
put a-
you have.
Oh, yeah, right,
You
it's-
can't-
it's-
you can't do
You do
that.
have to.
Yeah, 100%.
So whatever the board wants to.
So what, do you have a recommendation for minimum to lower to, or you want us to come up with it, or you want us to say?
Well, I have my personal, I have no land selling knowledge to share with you. Just that the one up north is more valuable overall
I think we're more apt to get the higher price on the land up north than the ones by Swaga or a 116.
So were you suggesting that there be very minimums, based on there,
We
just saying
could.
a one for all? If that's.
Well, you haven't got a bid on that,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
But you haven't got a bid on the northern one, right?
we could just sit on that one for a while and just.
For instance, you can lower it, we still don't have to accept
No.
it.
Yeah.
So maybe we can lower it to, just say 6 or 7, or we'd say we're 9,
9.
right?
I just feel like we're taking a loss as it is at 9, and I think we just need to sit on it for a while, because we're going into the winter months and people aren't buying as much now, and with the turmoil, the way things are politically, unfortunately, that's the way our world is, that if we just wait like another five months and see where we are overall society-wise, and then the spring people start to buy, I think if you just take it off the market and say, hey, wait.
I do have to contact this other, the place that,
I forgot, do we have any kind of deadline, I forgot.
last Wednesday was.
Yeah.
That was already the deadline.
Yeah.
Because we.
So since we're already hit our deadlines of when we would make a decision, then, those are my thoughts, because I just know people put their houses on in the winter and it doesn't go as well as in the spring and summer. Just from listening to it for the past 4 years, 5 years, and buying up here and the rotation of properties.
I do think it's also not a bad idea though to have some kind of signs out during the whole hunting season coming up. You're gonna have a lot of people from Illinois, a lot of people from other areas that are gonna be coming up, driving around, like going to their spot or whatever, and they might be like, hey, wait, hey, look, there's some land for sale, so I don't think it would hurt to somehow change the deadline or not even have a deadline, just have it listed for a while and just see what hits, I just think hunting season coming up would be a good time to have some signs up.
So leave it as is.
Well, I don't care if we
Change the
lower it.
paperwork, but change the paperwork so that when they do the QR code, it goes to, a deadline of, maybe December 15th or something, I don't know.
I think there needs to be better marketing, for sure, because I know a lot of people that didn't even know.
Right.
When they see land for sale, they're still going back to the land that we were looking to purchase.
Right.
That's what I've gotten so far, and I'm like, no.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah, they think it's the,
That's
land
that's
by the
all I've heard.
hospital.
No one knows that we're even selling land.
But if they do the QR code, it goes right to here.
But I'm just thinking of like some of the, I don't wanna say older generation, but some of like my parents' age who may not necessarily use technology as much and might not know what a QR code is.
Well, it's a little just, when the sign is like at Montessori, because I drive by that, land for sale, my first impression is that land is for sale.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
and,
we got that in this city
like we
meeting.
need
It's like,
to
oh, you see it.
change up the
Yeah, there's
marketing.
expectations.
so,
The city said.
is there any reason we can't separate, as long as we've got like, a little fish on the hook maybe for the, the land on 16, work with that a little bit, change it to 7 or 6 or something and see what happens that way, and then just sit on the other?
They're not typing.
I'm not willing to change the number,
Okay. For
I
even the
think
Highway
I-
16 one?
not even for that one,
Okay.
because
Jackson, it's right next to Street.
I don't know where you put that.
No one over there
That's
even
a-
knew it
that's
was
a-
for
I don't know
sale.
Where you'd advertise it, or other than.
That's
sign.
right,
There
that's
are
what I'm trying to get
signs-
at
there are signs
here,
right
because I think we can sell it for 9,000,
yeah.
but I think it just, like, no one over there knew that that's what, so like, just, I don't know, change the wording.
So
but-
we can just extend, we can just, you guys can decide what you want, but we can just extend the deadline, leave it as is, just extend the deadline for now, and then revisit it again in 2 months or whatever, at least get us through deer hunting and stuff, and start to spread the word more.
And there is a sign that we had commercially made on the Highway 16, and then there just is a normal for sale sign on the, Jackson.
Right. And that's what I think a couple of those would be nice,
like I said, when hunters are going around.
Could get a commercially made for sale signs for the Jackson County one for expensive.
I haven't seen that one. Is it more hunting land or is it like?
Oh,
regular
yeah,
hunting?
it's.
You couldn't do it.
Either.
Yeah.
It could be locked off too.
That's
Hunt,
kind of
definitely
like,
hunt, definitely hunt.
that's kind of like huge to market towards your audience, right? Like, are we marketing more towards like farmers or hunters or whoever will buy it for that?
Commercial.
But that's what I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
if we can market more towards like, if it could be either, then we can market to both.
I think the farmer would have to be somebody already connected because of water resources and things like that. So it would have to be somebody that already is connected.
Alright, so what I hear you saying is that I'm gonna change the date on when they're due, and we're gonna keep it at the 9,000, I'll contact the, entity that did the original bid for Highway 16, just let them know they are welcome to put it at the
Right.
$9,001 bid.
Excuse me, I'm not a hunter, so when is hunting season? I apologize.
Thanksgiving, week of Thanksgiving.
That's when it's over?
It's that whole week.
That's good.
Yeah.
So it's a weekend before
Right
Thanksgiving and
now
a
is
weekend
low
after
season.
Thanksgiving and in between.
So, and
It's
that's
like
just
November.
for deer.
That's Wisconsin deer.
And what about for all the other
That
animals
all
out
falls
there?
in at different times. So like
Yeah.
turkey already happened and it'll happen again in the spring.
Right,
That's really
right,
all
but
it's.
like, when
You
the
have
hunters,
elk
like, that's.
Well, very, very small right now.
Not a lot.
There is,
So
but
can I get,
it's
can I get a
extremely small right
motion
now.
for what
You can get it.
we're doing? Can I get a motion for what we're doing?
It's your.
I usually don't do it.
You can't make your.
I can't.
Okay, so you want to make a
I make a
motion?
motion that, I don't know if I'm gonna get this right, I'll make a motion that we extend the due date or the end date for that and then pursue, make more aggressive marketing.
I was just trying to get a clarification on the end date, Sue. Are we just gonna leave it open-ended?
Put a date
I
on
think
it.
there has to
Put a
be.
date.
There has to be a date, yeah.
Put a date.
So put it in January?
The other thing I was thinking is, would a business be looking at doing a tax something by the end of the year? So that's why I didn't know about
You
January.
can always extend it again.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yes, that's true. I'll say December 15th.
So you're just gonna extend it to the 15th,
Yes.
nothing else? But you said, when you said aggressive marketing, what do you, is that we need more clarification or? is it
More
just- is it
succinct
just-
marketing of this is the property, this is the property.
More
around.
signage, put it that way.
I'm just trying to
More
figure out how that.
signage, yeah. We're not ready to sign on with the real estate agent or anything, so let's just say more signage.
And talk to your friends clear or.
I'll try to, I'll.
Well, I have been talking to people, and that's how I knew that people thought we were talking about, like, and I don't know, because I haven't
We'll get
been
into
over there in a
that.
while.
By somebody about
So
it.
we get a motion by Sue
I
to
haven't
extend the
been
deadline to
March
December
in a long
15th
time,
and
so-
try to advertise a little bit more.
Mhm.
Signs.
Okay.
More clearer signage.
Alright, second for that one?
I'll second,
Alright.
now that we've like destroyed Sue's motion.
It'll be good, I got it.
Motion by
Thank you.
Sue, second by Teresa to extend to the 15th and some extra signage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright. Sounds good, spread the word. Alright, next, consideration and possible approval, the updates to the Tomah Area School District Employee Handbook that are presented right now.
All right, here is all the signage I have for you this evening. So thank you so much. There was a correction just made. Want to thank Teresa for catching that down on number 30. I had some run-on information. This is the actual updated one, but I'll get to that one in a moment. So I will be there. So these are all updates basically from board action is already taken. It's just time to start cleaning up some things. And I sent out copies of the handbook to everybody, and Michelle, I have the.
No, you're
No,
good.
This
They
is
have a
exactly
quick
how we're
line
doing it.
item
Yeah,
right
you bet.
there.
We don't have, they're just going to walk through these, and if there's any questions, comments, concerns, just get these squared away pending board approval this evening. So on page 9 of our handbook, we do have a brief history, and so we just, the current one ends with the referendum in 2019. Obviously, we have the 2024 one, and then talking about how that referendum failed. So just adding to our history there. On page 10, we have van drivers here in the school district as well. So in that section, adding /van drivers. That clears that up for everybody in the employee definitions. Then over on page 11, we have a lot of the trainings that the board has offered. Any relevant trainings, our support staff members are absolutely coming to our trainings, so we want to add plus any relevant training days on page 11.
Right now, it just says the first in-service day, but we've been offering multiple days of training.
So on page 12, under building administrators, the current principal and principal of the requested transfer positions. So you've got your policy 3130, but we want to make sure that there is this piece that's not a part of policy, but when there is a transfer between buildings that are requested, we just want to make sure the current principal and the principal of the requested transfer are all communicated with. And so I have letters and things I hand out for that, but I just want to make sure the principals are communicating there. So that's just practice that we've always been doing. I just want to make sure that this is in there. On page 13, deleting the section about the 45-15 calendar that was board approved to not continue that calendar a couple of years ago. On page 29, we no longer utilize the Frontline platform. The state's moved away from it, and it's not supported or anything, so now we have all of our teacher evaluations. We'll have all of those are on a Google Docs platform created with CISA4, and we house everything here, so that is the practice. Also on page 29, in the section of facility and security, that second paragraph, deleting just the desk and closet keys because we want them to turn any other appropriate keys as well. So just updating what the current practice is. Over on page 30, it had been for quite some time, the 3 days that we'd be closed, we could accommodate those 3. Well, now with our 1-hour early release, it's 2 days will become remote learning days after that, so we can absorb 2 free and clear. I want to thank you for those, but then anything beyond that will become remote learning days. This is also embedded within all the calendars too, so it should be 2. Also on page 30, so if a Wednesday call were to be made, it's a late start on a Wednesday, we're still going to release at 1 o'clock because that's already a part of the 1-hour early release on that. So it's just a compacted day, but everyone's got their plans already. Tom and I were visiting about this one too. We'll never know if that day will come, but it's just best we start late. It's still an early release, so it's already part of the day. So we highly recommend doing that since everybody's already in motion for that early release. Workers' compensation, that language, we recommend adding that to the second paragraph. If no paid leave is available, payment is made directly to district through the district's workers' compensation carrier, and the employee is paid through the district. And, Michelle noted that this protects their WRS contributions. Page 32 and 33, there was a board update in policies 3213 and 4213. That just needs to be put in. So I just threw this in there to say, yeah, we've got to get that policy updated, which you approved me last year. So that just needs to be updated through board action previously and now into the handbook. Page 34 on section threats of violence. We want to add the word professional duties, performance of everyone's professional duties there, professionals in the organization. And
wait, you want to add it or delete it?
It's in taking it out, excuse me, gosh, that's important. Yeah, that should be taken out and struck. Or is it add?
No, it's
it's
taken
add.
out because
Performance of his or her duties is what you want to say. Okay.
I colleges, that should have a
implies all.
strike through. So, deleting that, thank you. Veteran professional staff, page 40, deleting exact pay. We have already got that for mentors, that's already in our Schedule B. So on page 42, there's a reference to time for grading. We have not added grading days and calendars for the last few years, and even for 26, 27, so striking that. You see a strike through, I think I just got it walking through the PDF there. Page 44, so our 4K teachers, they are now doing all of their work with the buildings in terms of parent engagement. So they don't need that extra 87 and a half hours that was removed by a legislative process. So now they're just gonna do all of their outreach with their buildings. They're all one and the same. Page 45, delete the $27 but being paid for 1 hour of work. Then we found on page 47, there's a 10th bullet up there that references the grading and preparation days. Since we just don't do those anymore, delete that. And then just adding the S to all district in-service days on the 6th bullet of page 50. On page 52, the board had previously approved December 24th and December 31st as support staff paid holidays. We're gonna get the 25-26 teacher compensation model uploaded there. We also added a cycle L last year through board action. Now we'll get the support staff wage schedule updated. So we just recommend these cleanup activities.
So we have a page with all the changes made, but without having the actual handbook to see how it fits into it makes it kind of difficult. I don't vote on things unless I can see like the big picture, and I feel like that this is not really giving me the full picture.
Which one do you want to see, or all of them?
So I did some digging and I found the handbook, but I haven't had time because it took me forever to find it. I haven't had time to actually like go through and see how it fits into it. It took me like 2 hours to locate it.
To locate what?
The employee handbook.
I sent it to you via email.
Which email? That's what I was trying to pull up.
I didn't have it.
It was on Thursdays.
Thursday's email, which
Did
would
not
have been
see that.
the 30th, right?
Okay.
I don't have a 30th email.
I
from
got
you.
the calendar proposal, but I didn't
I
get
got the calendar
employee
twice.
handbook. So I had to go roundabout way to try and find it somewhere, and I found it.
I have it on the 30th.
I don't have anything from the 30th.
I don't either.
And I don't have anything from the 30th, and then on the 31st, I got the calendar, and then when it said agenda on the 31st, I got the calendar again. So that's all I have in my email.
That's all I have.
I have a calendar.
Nobody else got the handbook?
I did.
I did.
You
They
got it?
did.
On the 30th, I got it. On the 30th, I got it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 things embedded.
Yeah.
I didn't get any of that.
I didn't get any.
Okay, so I move to table item 7 as proposed updates to the Tomah Area School District Employee Handbook pending further review and discussion.
I'd like to second that.
I can bring it back Thursday.
Okay, I have,
I see it now.
You did?
So, okay, so 9:41 on Friday the 31st, we were sent an email about the calendar
I'm sorry,
error.
Heidi, I'm gonna get it.
Now scroll all the way down. On that, it must have been
Still not.
replied to it because there's.
Okay.
But anyways,
Alright, there is a motion and a second, so we got a motion and, we have a motion to table this until, when, did we say?
Regular.
Till the regular meeting? Okay, so we have a motion to table this, for 2 weeks, bring it back on, what would that be, the 17th? So people can look at it a little clearer. Motion by Teresa, second by Heidi, all those in favor of tabling, say aye.
Heidi made the motion, so then it's like.
Teresa made the motion. No, I'm sorry, Heidi made the motion, Teresa seconded it. To table it till the 17th. Any opposed to that? Alright.
I see what the computer did.
You see it?
Yeah,
Like, it hid them,
yes,
basically.
it did. You have to,
So unless
you
you
think
push
you're on the
this,
top
Show all.
Alright.
message.
Okay.
We'll take
So
Oh.
that's okay, sorry for the confusion, people have time now.
Thank
If
you
you
for
need it, if you
that.
can't
Sorry.
find it, if you can't
My
find it,
bad.
please reach out to Dr.
Took
Hanson or
me forever
Michelle.
to find it, I finally found it.
Dr. Hanson, I apologize. I don't know how to work my email evidently.
No, but I didn't either, it got stuck in here,
Alright.
so that's nice.
Yeah, it's okay, and that's valid if you'd like to see it.
Yep.
I have it now.
October
Okay.
30th at 1:55 PM, but hey, we got
You
this.
got it.
We got plenty
Okay,
of time.
so that is
You've
tabled.
approved everything already.
So that is tabled until the 17th.
Perfect.
Okay, next would be consideration of possible approval adding crossing guard wage to the support staff wage schedule.
Yes, administration recommends approval, so we're having great conversations with the city, and as you heard at the last board meeting, they have some concerns with their fiscal position with things, so school safety and crossing guards, great things that happened in the past, we want to continue that. We'll assume the cost of that by adding this wage to our support staff wage schedule. What's really nice though is it's important that they do get the training from Tomah PD, so we absolutely have that lane, that's so important to us. So we recommend the district assuming that.
I have a question on those particular crossing guards that they had paid for that we're, getting back. I'm not quite sure what that agreement was, but, where are those particular crossing guards? Are they the crossing guards to go to the parochial schools, or are they the crossing guards that come to us? Are we paying for the parochial school crossing guards, or are we paying for public school crossing guards?
Yes.
So the city is currently paying for the one at Lemon Wire. And
Okay.
that has, and the reason that's not turned over, they've had a long time employee that lives kind of right there.
She's the best.
And they haven't had an issue trying to find somebody.
Okay.
And then the other one is the one that's between Miller and Queen of the Apostles. And we have reached out to Queen of the Apostles to sit down and say, how are we gonna do this together?
Right.
Because it's their kids and it's our kids type thing. There are they have other two positions, they have not filled, I think this whole school year for sure, if not part of last school year. So they just haven't been.
So are we gonna end up paying, since the one person is embedded in the city, I don't wanna disrupt this crossing guard. Since the one, person is embedded into the city's, employment and benefits and stuff, are we going to continue to pay the city, are we gonna pay the city so that they can pay that crossing guard? So that she can continue to be embedded with their system, so her whole system doesn't get all messed up, or what are we gonna do?
Well, our next meeting with the city is to talk about all of this, because the impression that I received was that the bottom line is the crossing guards will not be in their budget starting January 1st. And the two, Lemon Wire and the one at the Queen of the Apostles and Miller, we have to have them both there.
Right.
So we would just resume those two spots. I'm gonna recommend that those people become employees of the district, so that we're not paying the city, so they pay them. And they are really only doing it when school is in session. And kind of what this is And so that's probably where we'd be filling the other positions, minus Pam's position, would be from our own staff. But what we have found, that it is a very stressful and intense situation sometimes with drivers. And not taking away from anything that our support staff does in our building. When you're standing out there in front of a car, you may need to be paid a little bit more for that time when you're out there. So the proposal is that our current staff, let's say they get paid $22 an hour to do their job in the building. We would be proposing that they get a bump during the time that they were crossing guard. So like, for example, at the middle school, I think it's a half hour in the morning and 15-ish, half hour-ish at night. So we'd be looking at really at one person making X amount of dollars per hour for crossing guard, and then the rest of his or her time being their normal wage. And we didn't really come up with a figure. We wanted to hear your thoughts on it, but I think it needs to be what currently is being paid, which I think is $25 by the city.
I don't see that as an issue. I mean, all it's gonna take is one accident and
Right.
somebody getting killed or hurt
The fog
severely
on Halloween
that.
morning
we
alone
went
for the little fire crossing guard, I can't even tell you how she stopped me immediately and was like, tell your board members, tell them, I'm like, and I will, like, the amount of work that she does to make sure that those kids are safe, especially on Glendale Avenue, you have all the buses coming in and out of the school area, it is unbelievable, and she's been a crossing guard forever. I can't.
And the city has said, we have those where you push the button, the lights flash. They said, we can take them and move them at certain places, but like, the light would always be flashing.
Yes.
At certain places.
Yeah.
As a range, that might be okay, because there's about 20-ish, 25-ish kids that walk. But that number's getting bigger because they're building houses and stuff out there too, so. A person's gonna keep our kids safe.
Yeah, the only thing that I thought in that was beneficial, we had foggy days and various things, to have something that, it wouldn't have to be that where you push it, but something that would note,
Even if they had their, the stop signs that might have the lights.
Is that the stop sign?
Like a
reflective?
There's
There's not a
yeah,
single section
pictures.
that is on
You
Glendale
can't see
Avenue, it's a straight.
No, just, her handheld stop sign.
Oh, no, it does
Have
not.
the flashing,
No,
so that you could see it in the middle of the fog?
no, but that's a great recommendation, and I might put lights on her sign tomorrow morning.
We get battery operated Christmas lights.
I don't care what it is, so that somebody will see her.
And they did indicate that they would be involved, the city would be involved in any training.
Yes, they will.
Yes. So I'm like, Mr. Murray, I don't have a problem with keeping their salaries where they are. Whatever the city's paying them, just bring them over here and do it. I just didn't know how you wanted to do their compensation, if they even get, additional compensation, with, benefits or whatever. I have no idea.
Well, most of the positions, and when Pam no longer does it, will be somebody that's already employed by us.
Oh, okay.
But, I think we need to work out with the city that even Pam, it becomes an employee of ours, because the city's not gonna have that program.
Right.
We also gotta remember that when it's 40 below with wind chill and you're standing out there for half an hour, it's.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah, I mean,
It
so,
absolutely is.
And she's always got so much to do.
but I think it is important. We need
Pay me $1 million an hour to do that.
You would?
I said, someone would have to pay me $1 million an hour to do that.
I know.
Got a motion by Rick, second by
Heidi.
Heidi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
Okay, next week, consideration of possible approval of the Schedule B positions as presented. This is embedded.
Yeah, this is embedded, and most of them are already, or were already, have come before the board. Like the ones at the The top three, those positions last year were added because of student participation numbers. I believe there was like 39 tennis players at the middle school, one person cannot do that. So they, an assistant, and the numbers, or the, whoops. And the amounts on there are just equivalent to like the wrestling junior varsity girls, the wrestling junior varsity boys, that's their stipend amount. A tennis assistant, there were other tennis assistants, but not for the girls, so that's just that amount.
I have a question about, the marching band, it has what, 100 students in it? And it's quite a bit lower than the wrestling varsity girls. Why, or the wrestling varsity boys who have, what, 30, 40 kids? Why is that difference?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the time. So for example,
Say, schedule.
there may be, 10 marching band practices, and I'm making the numbers up, I don't have them.
Okay, yeah.
But there might only be 10 marching band practices and 6 parades. So that's 16 days, whereas, our winter seasons go from now until February, where it's the amount of time. And we did a comparison of area schools, the marching band, all of these in the middle here that have already been approved.
Yeah.
We did a comparison of other districts so that we could be competitive with them. So all of these were raised last year.
Well, I'm just gonna go pick on the show choir too. I mean, with how many hours of rehearsal time, versus the practice time for the sports is two entirely different things. So, and again, it's a lot lower than their counterparts in the sports, and I just think, seeing that dichotomy, if you're looking at hour to hour spent, and you're basing this off of, that's fine, but if you it just doesn't look like it's equitable.
My kids were in show choir and in basketball, and they had way more time in basketball than they did in show choir.
Show choir still a class? Did we get rid of that?
No, it's not a
Okay.
class.
It was in 2002. that's
The
why I
board
asked.
already did approve all of those prior, so we did a deep dive into that, so we recommend the, adding the student
Yeah.
participation numbers. But yeah, so thank you for bringing it up, that could be cycled through again, we did a deep dive into that to update our Schedule B previously, but.
I would like to know, how many hours for a sport, how many hours, like, Mr. Janevko said, his kid was in both of those things. How many hours is being, in show choir before school even starts, and so on and so forth? And, how much time it takes per day, and how long their season is, and, because all I hear is nightmares from parents. And then, versus like basketball, or, in this case wrestling, or whatever sport you may choose.
I can try to compile that or talk to, Mr. Kruger.
Yeah, I really would like to know the difference and
And if
see
you
if it's.
recall, was it 2 years ago, like Schedule B had not been looked at in eight years or so, it's been a long time. So we did compare all area schools, what we were paying compared to what they were paying, how they were paying, and that's how, you did a massive upgrade about 2 years ago. And then, as time went on, we discovered the ones that you approved last year, that middle group, they were not, looked at as closely, mainly because Tomah's big, and so not all schools have all of these things. So we try to be as competitive with and paying our people the best we can. The one that, the bowling for girls and boys that was not increased, and I think maybe sure. But, the amount of time that bowling
Oh,
does is
yeah.
comparable to powerlifting, and that's the powerlifting. They were like at $700 or something like that. I think it was just something we just didn't. Because again, a lot of schools don't have bowling, so we didn't have it compare it.
And they're at the bowling alley for quite some time.
Yep.
When will this be reviewed again?
As
needed or
allows.
whenever?
You know, it would be, now some schools, they have, every single activity is a certain percentage of base salary. So that means every year, your Schedule B is going up a certain percentage of every base salary. Financially, for us to try to do that, we just can't do that.
Right.
Something would have to be cut in order for us to keep up with that. So, the feedback that Mr. Kluger received when we did it is that, as a whole, the advisors and coaches were thankful that after 8 years that we looked at it and that we made it competitive at that time. So it's not on a set schedule to review.
And it doesn't automatically just go up.
I would make a motion to table this pending the hourly breakdown, because we need to know what.
We did the hourly
hours.
breakdown 2 years ago on all of these positions.
So,
And I'm supposed to remember 2 years ago the hourly
And
breakdown.
I wasn't here 2 years ago.
so we're only, just so you know, I mean, we're looking at the items at the top. The rest have already been done. The rest are all, we're
that
not
middle
looking at
section
everything.
isn't even up for play right now.
Right, we're not talking about everybody's,
Yeah,
all of
I
our teachers, all of our,
understand.
it's literally just the ones at the top. The rest are already done.
Right. Okay. So I make a motion to approve the Schedule B positions as presented.
Okay, motion by Heidi to approve it as presented.
She already made a motion, so we either need to take care of.
I'll just withdraw my motion.
Okay, thank you. I'll second Heidi's.
Okay, motion by Teresa, second by Heidi. All those in favor say aye.
No. It was second by me, motion by Heidi.
Oh, I said it backwards, all right. Motion by Heidi, second by Teresa. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. All right, 6-1.
I
Okay.
still want the second section, the B, that one that we didn't pass.
All right, next would be consideration and possible approval of the 2026-2027 school calendar with an August 24, 2026 school date start.
All right, administration recommends approval. We did get approval from Department of Public Instruction on October 30 to start prior to September 1 through our application.
Did the calendar committee get to look at this and
They
they're okay
did.
with it?
Yeah, they did, and,
I'm the only one who objected to most of it because of, it does not take into account our military families who, have off the Mondays of holidays. And so, just to fill you in on the committee, but most of the teachers, this is what they agreed upon in that committee.
Yeah, I agree. And the reason they moved that, September Veterans Day down to the end of the month, or end of October, was just because too many days off at the beginning of the year. It was all too congested with Grand Fest and so on, so they pushed it back a little bit, just to make some more, so people could get on some sort of a schedule.
And it's at the, end of the semester, from what I
Yeah, there was
understand,
something
and
else.
so it just kind of fell into, okay, let's breathe time. And it also had to do with Halloween.
I think that was a side benefit.
I know.
It wasn't a primary concern.
It was not.
So, yes, thank you. We had a really strong team there, and know that the calendar had been pushed out by respective representatives to their buildings. So 24th is proposed first day of school, Tomah area schools, and then you see Cranfest is a change, 2 full days off there. Committee and was there recommend that. And you do see the flow of the rest of the fall into December. order dates would be established, high school will get those in. These are just really the basis of the calendar for 26, 27. Then you see winter.
Will the Crime Fest have some kind of stipulation that they can't come the day before the Thursday, or what, you know, I mean, there's gotta be a point where we say,
It's gonna be a week-long thing in a couple years.
I told my brother, he said he needs to go to them and say, you're doing this, but this is it.
yeah, just because, those people just move in. It's not even, I don't think it's a school, it's the people just kinda, start sliding in, but I think there's gotta be some.
The other issue, just to add to that, other than that, is we have so many people that are involved. So you have like show choir that needs to go out and start setting up, and you have people that have their own groups or their, other organizations they're part of. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But that was an added discussion with it too, was how many local people are involved with other groups.
Right. I think show choir goes and helps vendors set up.
Correct.
And so
You're right,
DECA
100%,
does,
100%.
and most of our high school students,
Right.
they're gone, so.
DECA's out there setting up and stuff like that.
Sure. I'm not taking away from Cram Fest, but I just know that, they'll just start encroaching on, Wednesday night.
It's not fun having kids go there and being worried about all the people that are there. So I like the 2 days because I hate them being, I almost just took them out on Thursday before.
Well, that's what Tim said. Tim said it is so hard.
He's
playing
awesome.
police.
He's the only reason I feel comfortable with my kids being there on Thursday, because I know he's on top of it.
So do we get a motion on
Yep,
it?
no, not yet.
Before.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, got a motion by Rick to approve the calendar. There's a second.
I'll second.
Second by Sue. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Best thing.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Heidi, second by, motion by Katie, second by Heidi. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next Monday, don't forget, next Monday is a special, we got facilities here, and then a special meeting after.